This video is sponsored by Squarespace. "44 questions." I'm gonna do my best to get through as many as possible. I'm gonna try and be concise. What don't I like about being a YouTuber? It's probably the performance aspect of it. Of course, you want to be as real and authentic as possible. Like, you go into it saying, I'm just going to be like a person on the internet, and then you realize that you are incredibly long-winded, which is my case, or upon rewatching yourself, you're like, why the heck was I just talking about that? So like, the whole idea of trying to make everything that you're trying to say into just a few words and come off charismatically to a camera when you're literally just alone in a room by yourself, that's really hard. And some people make it look really easy, and it's not for me. By the way, if this is the first video of mine that you're watching, why? But also, my name is Maya. I do pottery on the internet and trying to introduce myself more. So there you go. We're making frogs today. A lot of people are asking general life questions, where I'm from, how did I end up in Germany, etc. I did go way more into detail in previous Q&As, so today I think I'm just going to give you a very quick whirlwind overview. I'm born in the US. I'm born in a small town near Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Studied fine arts, got my BFA. I went traveling in North Carolina. That's where I met my partner, who is now my husband. And yeah, he's from Germany. And that's why I ended up moving to Germany. It was a long and difficult decision to figure out, whose country we're going to and how we're gonna make this relationship work. And we recently celebrated our 10-year anniversary, as well as my 10 years being in Germany, which was very exciting. And I'm currently applying for citizenship, which is very, very cool. Zingcat asks, what have been the biggest surprises, challenges, and joys of moving to a different country? I moved here when I was 24, so you can do the math for how old I am. My values have changed tremendously since moving here. And the thing that gets harder and harder every year is to be far away from my family. That's something that, in my 20s, going out into the world, and I wanted to, experience things, and it gets harder every year that your parents get older, or that, something major happens in your family that you would love to be part of. I also hate flying, so. Okay, Passionate Pottery asks, what was the best thing you ever did with clay? Number one, the Rube Goldberg machine. I made a freaking Rube Goldberg machine out of clay. That's really cool. And then second throwdown challenge of the most previous Canadian throwdown that I did was chessboard, but the pieces were candlesticks. So the chessboard was like a flame. And that was so cool. I remember I was flying to the US at that time. I was in the plane when the video went live, and I got off the plane so excited to check my YouTube studio, thinking that I would get all these amazing comments about the video. It was, in YouTube parlance, it was a 10 out of 10. It was a bummer of a video. And y'all should go watch that video because it was so cool. It was such a fun project. Rebecca Fuchs asks, do you have any tips for timing drying for students who come in once a week? Yes, this is something that I experienced when I was running my community studio. We had a throwing class that was once a week. So what we did was we just wrapped things in plastic. If they were freshly thrown pieces, we would just drape some plastic over them. If they were trimmed or whatever, we would wrap it on all sides, spritz it with a spray bottle. And then maybe even most effective was we stored that all in the cellar of the studio. Depending on your resources, you could also get something like a wet cabinet, a wet box. Is that what you call them? Where you have some plaster on the bottom and you pour water in. If you do these things, you can basically stop time. That's how it was for us. So just, wrap the pieces up really well. Kryptonite Meteor says, I still have trouble throwing tall. Is there some secret that I don't know? You and me both. I would say try more grog. Maybe at the beginning of every throwing session, you warm up with a tall cylinder. This is something that I also need to get better at, is just putting more reps in. Yeah, practice. Thomas Turbado asks, How would you recommend someone interested to start doing pottery? Watch my last video. That is exactly meant for people like you, with all of my tips for getting started with pottery in this new year. So go watch that. Chelsea Steeb asks, is there any material that you'd like to replicate with pottery that you think could turn out as good as the cardboard look you tried? Ooh, should I try? I like legit didn't even think about this. I'm getting all these ideas right now. But I just did the cardboard thing because I saw it on Instagram and I just thought it was so cool. And I think that was possible mostly because he shared all of his information online about that. But maybe there's other ideas. Like if you have them, please write them down below in the comments. Ooh, is my pottery business profitable? There's a handful of people who ask business questions. Like, although I have videos on my channel about, you know, how to make money off of your pottery, how to sell pottery, I try to be really careful about income claims and putting myself in a role of mentorship publicly online. I'm always happy to advise people privately, but once you start talking about this stuff on the internet, things change, and I just don't want people to make their financial life decisions based on my experience. So yes, my pottery business is profitable, but I have been working at this for a really, really long time. It's been 10 years in the making. And I would say 7 of those 10 years, it was basically not profitable. But also I kept such bad books back then that I actually couldn't tell you. Like, when you mean profitable, do you mean enough to survive on? Because okay, then you can push it back a bit further and maybe say it took 5 years until I could quit my day job, but profit is something different. Profit should be on top so you can reinvest in your business, right? So I strive for about 5% profit, and my whole business was revolutionized when I read the book Profit First. If you have any interest in entrepreneurship, this is a classic. You should read it. Very much changed how I run my business, and now it's profitable, and now I know my books. Let's take a little break to talk about today's sponsor, Squarespace. If you've never heard about Squarespace before, they are an all-in-one platform that artists and entrepreneurs use to stand out online. I've personally been using Squarespace ever since I started my online business, and I'm still using them for my website today. There are a few things that I love about Squarespace, one of which is their memberships, which I use to host our very own template club, but you can use to create community, host courses, or other premium content. 2, they just launched a really cool AI feature called Design Intelligence that empowers anyone to build a beautiful, bespoke website tailored to your unique needs. And 3, once you have your online store set up, you also have access to Squarespace Payments, which is super easy to set up and gives your customers more ways to pay with popular payment methods like Klarna, Direct Debit, Apple Pay, Afterpay, and ClearPay. So if you're ready to take selling your pottery to the next level, or you're just looking for an online home for your art, I really recommend Squarespace because they make making a beautiful website really easy. So head to squarespace.com right now for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/potterytothepeople for 10% off your very first website or domain. Now let's get back to the video. When is it necessary to sand bisque fired pieces before glazing them? I never do it. You don't have to, so lucky you. Don't worry about it. I almost always sand off the signature because I found that the signature is the clearest when I just draw it into the leather hard and it kind of puts up all these burrs, and then I don't touch the burrs, let it dry out, bisque it, and then I sand off the burrs when it's done bisquing. So I'm pretty much just sanding my signature. Where is a great pottery studio/gallery in Berlin? Well, Pasta Maker 08. I have a whole list on my website. I don't think it's linked on the webpage, but I'm going to put a link to it down below. I made that website when I was leaving Berlin because I had this community space and I was putting a lot of people out. I felt really guilty for taking away this community space from people. So I put together a whole list of every other pottery studio I knew of in Berlin that had classes, memberships. So I still have that list available on my website. So I'm going to link that down below. Grand Lawton asks, any game-changing tips for a high school teacher so the students' things dry evenly? Well, I would give them limitations on how thick certain elements of their piece can be. So I usually told people the thickness of your finger I seriously need glaze recommendations, white matte and glazed and speckled clay. This is from Maru Ceramic, and I suspect by your username that you're from Germany. I suspect. I recommend Callega. You can use Ceramic Craft as well. They have more stuff, but I usually buy stuff from Callega. I use, this clay is actually reclaimed, so this is a mixture, but I use beige mitt spots, 32. I think I use SF. So the SF has a little bit of grog in it. That's my speckled clay. And I use 9 SF for the white. Super standard basic white clay. And then, I don't have a matte white, but a glossy matte, I literally just use the super basic matte from Callega, from 1200 to 1260, 1251A Vice. Aralina asks, how do you organize your time and projects? I actually have a whole video on this that I did about this time last year when I was outlining my plan for the year. I still use that same exact system, basically like a big calendar. The only upgrade I did is I switched it from paper to now I have a pin board, but it is the exact same system. And I really love this system. Like, I've gotten a few of my friends hooked on this system now. I love having an overview. It's really great for these projects that last longer than a week. So yeah, use it. You get free time. What do you do other than pottery? Don't mind the camera. I just moved it. I'm really crafty in general. Like, I don't just do pottery. One of my main side crafts is crochet. I always have a crochet project going. Right now I'm working on 2 projects, one a blanket and the other like a sweater vest. I'm trying to learn how to sew clothes. It's not going super well, but I'm trying. Another big part of my project, my life, is working on this house. So yes, we don't own this house, but we get a pretty cheap deal on this house, which means we're working on the house. What percentage of your income comes from YouTube AdSense versus sponsorships versus your online store? Yeah, it's about 50-50. It's 49 YouTube, 51% other, which is my website basically. Basically, I make a quarter of my income from YouTube itself, so AdSense, a quarter from sponsorships, and then the rest comes from my online store. I don't know like how helpful these things are though, because I mean, maybe it's interesting, but last year I've been really focused on growing YouTube, and so that has quickly ballooned. It's basically like whatever you focus on. If you have any questions and you want to talk to me privately about it, you can always DM me. Good morning. It's the next morning. I'm back to finish the frogs and keep answering your questions. Alyssa Rose asks, how long did it take you to feel like you were good at your craft? I still don't feel like I'm good. I really don't. Like, I'm not just being humble. It's one of those things, it's like the more you know, the less you think that you know. The more pottery I'm exposed to, the more I'm like, I'm never. But it's the truth, because like the bar just keeps getting raised. Like your metaphorical palette gets more and more refined, and then you realize, oh dang. But what defines good pottery anyway? Megan Luke Edwards asks, how to build large pieces in pieces over multiple days without drying out. This is something that I do quite a bit actually. If you've seen any of my larger pots that I've built, by coils, you can sort of see the process there. So you want to, at least once a day, twice a day, maybe 3 times a day, check on the pot, see how dry it is. What I'll often do is I'll wrap some plastic around the base of it if I want the base, like the older parts of it, to dry slower, and then I'll leave the parts exposed that should be drying faster. I'll link a video that shows that process. If you're cutting off fresh clay from a new block, do you have to fully wedge it? No. Bone dry pieces laying around for 6+ months. Can you still fire them? Yeah. The worst thing is that if they get dusty, and like the dust will obviously burn off in the kiln, and if that produces some sort of fumes, but I can't imagine just like dust in the studio is going to be that bad. Alex Fabian asks, how do you wash towels, aprons, and everything with clay without ruining the plumbing? What I usually do is I'll like swish it around in a bucket to get off most of the clay, and then obviously put that bucket through the reclaim, or put that bucket, dispose of the solids in that bucket somehow. What I've been doing lately though is I've been actually like putting them out in the garden and just letting the rain wash them. That's kind of like the lazy person's way of doing it if you have access to a garden. Just try and get as much of the clay off as possible before before washing them. Use a sponge to wipe off the majority of that slip before using a towel to dry off. That's probably the best advice. What holiday traditions do you love from Germany and which ones do you miss from home? Germany does the best Christmas markets. If you ever have an opportunity to come to Germany in the wintertime, endless amounts of stalls, Glühwein, traditional food, which, you know, it's all right. Treats and trinkets that you can buy, and it's just really, really nice. So that's something I really, really love. And what I miss from home, I miss, you know, being with my family. In Germany, they typically celebrate Christmas on the 24th, actually. On the 25th is like my American Christmas, and I keep a handful of traditions that I have from my childhood. So like making French toast in the morning and stuff like that. Yeah, but otherwise, like the Christmases are very similar. Like decorations, tree, all that stuff. Laura Albina De Falco asks, how do you dispose of failed pieces? This is a hugely important question. I sort of have like a tiering system for failed pieces. Things that are like seconds quality, I will sell as seconds. I now have a shop here in Ulm that sells some of my seconds. And then if it's really bad, but still like safe, I will give it away to my neighbors or friends, or even sometimes I'll like put it in the thrift shop because I don't want to just throw it away because that makes garbage. It's still fully functional, but it's not something that I can comfortably put my name attached to. And then if it's dangerous, if it's bisqued and I'm not going to put it through the final fire because that's a waste of kiln space, I throw it away because that doesn't feel responsible for me to put pottery out into the world that's not food safe. What are your goals for 2025? YouTube, pottery business, and personal goals. Oh, so much to say. For YouTube, I would love to do like a handful of more of these epic pottery projects. I've got a whole list of videos. Should I share it or should I make this a surprise? I'm not gonna share them all, but here's some things that maybe you guys can give me some feedback on. I've been doing these air conditioner videos in the summer, so I was thinking about these DIY ceramic heaters that you can see on the internet. I have a bunch of Steal Like an Artist videos. One of the things I was thinking about that I'm just genuinely so scared to do. Do you guys know Nerdforge? She's a huge maker on the internet, and she has a printable PDF version of a big paper castle that she made. And so I was thinking about making that out of clay. That's an idea. I was thinking about a couple of techniques that I was interested in trying. Water etching, this foam stamping that I've been seeing a few videos online about, slip casting, because I don't know what's going on lately, but I keep hearing people trash talk slip casting, and I really want to do a video that's called like slip casting is hard and you should respect it more or something like that, because slip casting is totally different than wheel throwing. I did do it once in university, but I haven't touched it since, and my experience with it is hard. People have this idea that slip casting is easy because you use molds, but like it is not. It's a whole art into itself. It's way more technical than what I do. So these are just a few of my ideas. There's more. Business goals. I would love to get more tools into my shop. So you probably know that I make pottery templates, so slab building templates that people can buy on my web shop. Those are really great and people love them, and I would love to like expand my collection of tools. So I'm not just selling templates, but I'm selling other stuff too. I don't know right now which idea to pursue, and it's like opening up this whole can of worms because it is getting into manufacturing. Do I want to manufacture in-house? How does that work? How do I make sure that the manufacturing process is not only ethical, but high quality? It's a whole new skill set. So I would love, love, love to do that. It's just going to be a process. And if anyone has any experience with this, oh my gosh, I would love to pick your brain and send you some pottery or pay you or whatever, because that's like the scary part for me. And then personal goals. This year, my garden was kind of a fail. So I would really, really love to have a better garden next year. This summer, I was so deep in my work. I couldn't focus on anything else. In general, I would love to have a bit more life balance next summer, especially. So the whole summer doesn't go by and I was just working all summer. You know what I mean? You'd think by the 10th or so frog, I would have a system for how I cut this, but I really don't. Jen Makes Pots asks, can mugs with handles be made with a tool, aka handle maker, ever be as nice as pulled handles? Of course. There's no rules. So the thing about pulling handles is it does compress the clay as you pull. How important that is, I do not know. I have absolutely nothing against handles made with an extruder, coil handles. There's the traditional way of making handles, but you can make handles however you want, and there's nothing wrong with it. Don't let traditionalists make you afraid of being proud of the pottery that you make and making pottery however you want. Miriam Faber, who is an old student of mine, hi Miriam. Miriam asks, how did you build a social circle in the countryside after leaving Berlin, both ceramic and non-clay friends? The embarrassing thing is I don't really have a social circle here. I have like a handful of friends. None of them are potters. I found a group of people who are more entrepreneurial and doing like, I would call them creative businesses. They're not like businesses in the arts, but entrepreneurial ladies, which is really, really nice because we have a lot of, things in common, even if they're not doing pottery itself or anything in the arts. But it's hard, my God. Like, I really took for granted the pottery community in Berlin. That is probably the thing I miss the most, honestly. I've met a handful of other potters here, but I've not been able to like make friends. But that said, the friends I have here are wonderful, and I wouldn't trade it still. I really, really like being out of the city. How do you balance your working as a potter and still finding joy of it as a passion? Oh, this is a really great question. I don't know if you're gonna like my answer. So like, I think you can see in the videos where I sort of get into the zone and experience joy while working with pottery. But that said, that doesn't mean that there are not days where I'm upstairs, where it's cozy and warm and clean, and I'm like, I don't want to go down to the studio. I don't want to film myself. I don't want to make pottery today. Turning pottery into my job has 100% changed my relationship to it. And this is one of the reasons why I don't do a lot of productions like I'm doing right now. That's one of the reasons why I don't want to make selling pottery my full-time job, is because I think that that would make me dislike it more. I constantly am telling people to not make their hobbies their job. I didn't know better when I was in my 20s, and I'm not saying that I don't still love pottery. Like I said, like you see in these videos, like there's a spark and there's joy, and I love coming up with creative solutions, and I love making things, and I love especially making things that you use every day. But in my free time, I don't do pottery anymore. Which I don't know if that's a sad thing because I do other crafts now. It just is what it is, and I'm very content with it because it's one of the best jobs, or it is the best job that I've ever had. I still like it, but it is not really a hobby anymore. But I'm passionate about it in the way that it is a job that I feel called to and a job that I enjoy enough. Yeah. Ooh, that is the last question, y'all. I have been talking for way too long, and my poor editor is going to have to do a lot of work. So I appreciate you, Carolina. I appreciate all of you guys watching. I'm going to overlay a shot here of these pieces finished. If you want to purchase one of these frogs, you can do so. I think they will bring you a heck of a lot of luck in the new year. And thanks for following along. Thanks for being interested in my life. It's incredibly flattering. I feel sometimes like doing a Q&A is like the peak of narcissism. Why would anyone be interested in my life? But I really appreciate you guys, and that's really wonderful that you are interested in my life. And thank you for watching my videos. Is it next week or the week after? I've got a really good one coming. So I'll see you then. Bye, friends.